First off, you want to wash your tomatoes really, really well. Sometimes I'll even fill a bin with some soapy water, dip them in there, and then rinse them off really, really good. And then I set them off to dry for a little while. Next, you want to make sure you get all the stems off of your tomatoes. So just take all the stems off, especially on your little cherry tomatoes. You can use those too when you're making sauce. If you have any really thick stems that won't come off real easily, you can just take a paring knife and kind of cut those out. And also, if you have any tomatoes that show any sort of like bruising or little spots like that, make sure you cut that off and get all that off of there, because you don't want to ruin a whole batch of spaghetti sauce because of a spoiled tomato. So if you get yourself one of these, it's called a Vittorio strainer. Now, I bought this like 30 years ago, so I think they still have them. I Googled it a couple years ago, and I believe they were still selling them or something similar to this. But again, I'm stressing that this all needs to be very, very clean. Make sure that you've washed well all the parts of this before using it again. Again, making sure that your jars, your lids, everything has been washed very, very well, and that you're sterilizing them in the hot water before you actually put your product into there. After we put the product into the jars and seal them, we're going to process them again in this big pot in hot water for at least 45 minutes, because it's very, very important that everything is processed so that there's no botulism. You don't want to get sick from canning. It's got to be done in a proper way. Okay, once your water's come to a boil, you can turn that down just a little bit. You can start adding your tomatoes whole. As I said, I'm doing kind of an easier way today by putting these in here whole into the water, and then we're going to take them from out of here and put them in the top of here, and as you're pushing them through, it's kind of breaking up the tomatoes, and it's going to get rid of all the skins and the inside seeds. All you're going to be left with is the pulp of the tomato. The other way to do it is to, as I said, you're going to take the tomatoes, quarter them, and you're going to remove that pulpy area with the seeds and discard that, and then just cut these into quarters, and you can then put that into a pot with no water and just kind of let that cook down till it's hot and the skins will get a little loose, and then put them in through the strainer, and you've got less water in it, so it like takes less time to boil down the sauce like we're going to do. All right, so we've got them in the hot water. And you can kind of tell when they're ready because you'll start to see the skins split on the tomatoes. Okay, so as you can see, now that they've kind of cooked, see how the skins have gotten kind of loose and they're peeling away? So I'm taking them out of this pot because I've still got more to boil. Otherwise, I would just drain the water out of this and throw them in here. But I'm using a slotted spoon because you are trying to avoid getting any more water into this than already is in there. Okay, now we're going to start trying to push these tomatoes through the processor, and the juice part's going to come out here, and then the skins and the pulp and the seeds, the things that you don't want in your sauce, are going to come out over here to discard. So you just start slowly pushing them through there as you're turning. And this is like a little plunger or a muddler, if you want to call it, that pushes them down in there. Okay, so as you're pushing these through, you don't want to get too aggressive with it. Go kind of slow, because otherwise you start getting sauce that starts spurting out all over the place in your kitchen. It's just a mess. Unless you have one of those old Italian kitchens where they have a second kitchen downstairs that they purposely put down there to do canning. You can just go at this kind of slowly. The tomatoes, since they're hot and the skins are all like breaking, they sort of break up in here if you want to get a shot of that. You can see how it just gets kind of mushed up in here, and you're forcing it through the sieve. So we've processed about half of our tomatoes. We've got some more cooking here. That's the rest of it except for the cherry tomatoes. And we've already got one big huge bowl. And this is all the, I like to call it the crap that comes out of it. But I will take this and put it actually out on the compost pile, because there's a lot of good nutrients in this. Why waste it? Compost it. Okay, so we're done processing them through the Vittorio strainer. This is all the junk that was left, the second batch. And I don't want to waste all this good pulp, so I'm taking a sharp knife and kind of scraping that off of there because that's the best stuff there. So we'll do that, and then this is all the sauce. As I said, we've used a variety of tomatoes, so it's a little more watery than what you want, but that's why we're gonna put it in a pot and just let it simmer away for hours until it gets to the thickness and boils away, you know, a lot of that water content, because you don't want a jar watery sauce. All right, so we've poured, well, most of our sauce into here. I've still got a little bit left, but as this is boiling down, I'm going to add it to it. We're guessing that this is a little over 2 gallons of juice that we've got right now. And I'm just going to bring this to a boil and then make sure you turn it down right away to a low simmer. And just let it sit here for as long as it needs. It could be hours till it evaporates a lot of that water out of there. And then I'll show you how to put them in the jars and process them. Important thing here is don't let it burn. Be around to make sure you keep an eye on your sauce. Even though you're going to have it on low, I would still come over and, you know, stir it frequently, because if it burns on the bottom, you've just ruined a whole batch of sauce. Alright, so this sauce has been at a low rolling boil. And when I say low rolling boil, I mean it hasn't been on high. It's not like bubbling up out of the pan or anything. You just want to have it where it's going to simmer, but it's sort of boiling so that there's a lot of steam coming out of it. And this was filled to the top. And then we boiled it down a little bit, added some more, and then this is what it has reduced to now, over about 4 to 6 hours. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of salt, say a couple tablespoons, to the sauce. And meanwhile, we've had our jars that are being sterilized in very hot water. We brought that to a boil, and then after it was boiling, turned it down to about a medium heat. And as long as it's been in there for at least half an hour, they will be sterilized just fine. Okay, now we've got our sterilized jar. And I'm just going to start filling these jars up. We've already added our salt. Some people like to add lemon juice as well, but I've done it without lemon juice for years, and it's just fine. Okay, so to each jar, I like to add a couple of bay leaves. From the garden, of course. And then you're going to fill this up till about a ½ inch to a ¼ inch just from the top of the bottle. I'm going to leave a little bit of air. So that's about good right there. Okay, so we're going to keep on filling these. Make sure you add your bay leaf. Now we have our lids and the caps sterilized. I'm going to put them right on the top. Ooh, that was a small one. Of our jars. And if you've used one of those funnels to fill your jars, you shouldn't have to worry about anything being spilled around the tops of the jar lids. So this one wasn't filled quite all the way. So we're going to use that this week. We're either making some sauce, or can even use it as a Bloody Mary mix. That could be good too. Okay, now we're tightening on the lids. That one. These are hot. So be careful you don't burn yourself. Once we get these all screwed on, then we're going to make sure they're tight. And then put them back into the water, because these are going to process for at least 45 minutes. And make sure they are safe to eat and store. Okay, so we got almost 8 quarts out of those tomatoes. That's just one batch. Last week I think I got 6 of them. And those are being stored downstairs. in a nice cool spot. But what you're going to do is take these and very carefully put them into very hot water. It doesn't have to be boiling, but almost just boiling at this point. And put them in there. And you let them sit in there for at least 45 minutes to an hour. There you go. Set the timer. Okay, these have been processing for about 45 to 50 minutes right now. So we're going to take them out. And all you need to do is very carefully get all that water off of there. And you're going to set them on a heat-safe surface. And as they cool, you're going to hear this top go bing. And that means it's been sealed like that. And it's safe. Once they've cooled really well, we're going to put labels on them and we're going to store them downstairs in a nice, cool, dry spot. You can keep them up to about a year, year and a half. I wouldn't go much more past that, but you can also refrigerate these as well. So we processed these yesterday. I did them for about 55 minutes and then took them out and let them cool. And as they were cooling, within about 10 minutes, I heard bing, 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 that lovely sound that means they are vacuum sealed. And now they are safe to store in a cool place, which will be down in my cellar, also known as my basement storage room. And I put some labels on them. I put the date. I like to use my stuff up within the first year, but I've heard it's safe to use things up to 2 years, but be on the safe side. Use them up within a year. See you again. Bye.